Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a rousing session of Revit Radio. I like to see you out there Googling it. I'd like to welcome everybody for coming to Revit Radio. And I did forget to mention this last time that we did record it last time, and I did post it on a YouTube channel that I created. I just forgot to tell anybody or post about it. So the two views it had were myself and Melissa. So thanks for viewing it with me, Melissa. For those of you who have not been here before, this is a session where all you do is ask questions and we answer them. And by we, it's probably going to be Melissa and or myself, Brian Haley. He's here to be the good-looking guy of the group because he does the similar thing that he does it with Civil Chat. So,
yep. So if you know anybody that has Civil 3D questions, send them my way.
So on this, we are using Zoom. Eventually, I'll figure out how to tie Zoom to YouTube, and we'll do them live on YouTube as well. But so with Zoom, we have the question and answer pod. Please type your questions in there because it's easier for the four of us to submit, sort through, and go through things like that. I also would like to apologize if you hear any crazy noise in the background because yes, my landscaping project is still going on 4 months later. So if you hear any crazy sawing, beeping, whatever, that would probably be my background. Now, with that said, if you guys do also want to chat, you want to heckle, you want to do anything else, you want to tell me you're stalking me from our previous comments, that's cool. Just do that in the chat pod. And in the chat pod, you can actually say, are you chatting to everyone or simply just the hosts and the panelists if you want to heckle me directly or anybody else. So with that said, I don't know if anybody's out there not heard the greatest breaking news, but Revit 2023 came out this morning. I was told it was going to come out at 7 Pacific time, but it was up at 6 a.m. and it was posted at 6 a.m. this morning. So I did download it and get it installed. So we got to start sharing my screen. You guys will get to see, here's Revit 2023. And
before Brian gets into this, there are no questions yet. So if you guys have questions at all, make sure you put them over there in the Q&A pod so that Brian can answer them for you.
Yeah, this is my stall tactic. While waiting for questions, right? So I know a little bit about what's in 23 because I go to the forums for the beta. I rarely actually open up the software. I don't know, Melissa, are you in the beta?
Yeah, I've been a bit too busy to play with the betas.
Yeah, I open up the forum when I'm in really boring meetings and I kind of read some of the things in the forums, or if I'm like waiting on Revit to sync or something, I'll go read a couple forum posts. So what you see on my screen is 23. I did tweet about this about a week ago or so. You did see there's all new icons. So they did change the icons. So along with the new Autodesk icon that looks like Nessie coming out of the water, we now have new kindergarten block icons for all the software. I do feel like I want to stack these on my desktop and get rid of, oopsie, I didn't tell that one to not hide. I do want to stack them like on my desktop and start playing with some of those, but we do now have the new 2023 icons. So for me, I actually didn't go with the year. Parallax, of course, Aaron has went through and added new icons for people to go download. I think he just gave up on the block icon because everything's so small. He's like, yeah, I can't tell what that is. Screw it. And he made up his own. I think there's, yeah, he had a couple of variations of them. So no, it's not released a week earlier than you would expect because for those of you who don't want to know about all the crazy Revit history, is Revit was originally released on April 5th. Autodesk acquired them on April 1st, but they were originally released on April 5th. I know this because it's the same as my daughter's birthday. So Vienna turns 9 today. So happy birthday to my daughter who's never going to watch this. But yeah, so that was there. So yeah, usually they've been trying to stick within the last 2 years coming out around April 5th because it does kind of bring it out there. So I've done a couple posts on this while I'm still waiting for questions to come up on the Q&A pod. The one thing that I did know in the beta forum, and we did discuss this a little bit, is they've made a lot of significant performance issues, performance improvements, I should say. So fixed some things, made some things better. But one of them you actually have to turn on. And I did go through and do a blog post on this today. Let me pull this one down here. Nope, not that blog post. Let's go back to just my blog. Come on, go home. Oops, see now I'm going into the editing, not home. Oops, my bad. Just go back over here to the blog. One thing I did come in here was not the project browser change, but performance improvement. So if you guys do want to know, you can go to my blog and I did talk about this and give steps in there. But anybody use the steering wheel tools? By show of hands, no, yes. I love one of the steering wheel tools. And the steering wheel tool that I actually like is Rewind. And right now you can see I've got Rewind coming on in here. Rewind will let you go back to anywhere you were located in your view and go all the way back and through. Now all Autodesk products have this. And most Autodesk products, when you look at them, they only have this nice little thumbnail here. But notice how here I'm actually getting images. So if I pan, let me get rid of Rewind here for a second. If I zoom here, pan here, come over here, zoom to fit, do all this crazy stuff, and now I go into Rewind, you're going to see that I've actually got preview images of where I did that, right? Revit has historically always had these preview images. So we've had the preview images. You can scroll back wherever you want to. Again, you can then scroll forward. I love the Rewind tool personally. I use it quite often. But you're going to notice here, I just have the little rewind arrows like every other Autodesk product. Well, what I found out with the 2023 beta is they're actually allowing us to disable these previews because it's a huge performance hit when navigating through views. Because Revit is actually saving little thumbnail images of every single view you have open in a project. So if you use the rewind on that view, you can see it. Okay, but that is not enabled by default. So by default, you do need to come up to the file tool. You do need to come down into options, and you do need to then go to steering wheels and toggle it off. So if you wanted to get rid of it, have better performance issues, you can start coming through and get rid of that and say, okay. And now if I zoom, pan, zoom, then go into rewind, you will see I've lost the images again. So I think in larger projects, this is going to be a very big deal for the improvement. So I did start going through and saying, hey, that's probably something we should turn off. The other thing that I know a lot of people are going to freak out, and again, I'm waiting for questions because by no means is this a what's new in Revit 23. I have not really played with it that much. But I am going to talk about a few of the things I know from the beta. So we still need your typical Revit questions as we're going through. Oh, John said his Revit download showed up last night on his managed.autodesk. Man, I don't know. I'm not a night person, so I try to get away from the computer around 5 o'clock and not touch it again. So I probably would have geeked out and looked at it a little bit, but I wasn't expecting it at 6 a.m. this morning either. So,
Well, that's probably why John stayed up and then totally updated the colored tabs.
Oh yeah, so that's why he sent out. So I did give kudos to John and Parallax because, you know, I've been using their add-in for color coding the end grouping. I always need to add the end grouping part because that's more of a key thing for me than just the color coding. But the color coding grouping, I got an email from John last night at like 8 o'clock saying, hey, download the latest for 2023. And I'm like, man, I'm getting an add-in before the product is shipped. That's pretty impressive in my mind. Usually, most clients or most add-ins I have, it's like you might get it 6 months later, 8 months later, and it's just, I refuse to use those kind of add-ins. But the one that I'm going to get literally before the software comes out is pretty cool. So thanks for that, by the way, John. So another thing that was pretty big, and I guess this was a huge user request. I don't know, to me, it does not really freaking matter, but this was a big user request, I guess, is you'd be able to know if a view was on a sheet or not. Historically, for me, I would right click on a view, and if it said open sheet, it's on a view. If I right click on a view that doesn't give me open sheet, it's not on the sheet. So I can do it that way if I was really, really curious to see. But I guess a lot of people wanted to know just by glancing if a view was on a sheet or not. And that's what you're going to see with these nice, pretty new little icons here. Ooh, let's see. These ones are not on a sheet. This one is. If that's irritating to you, if they're like, why do I really care? That is a very simple right click and turn off show placement on sheet status icons. It's way too much for a setting dialog box. And you can turn those off and go back on. It does make your view a little bit wider. So you'll notice if I toggle them on and off, it is adding to the width of it. So I don't know if I'll be leaving these on. I'll leave them on for a while, but I don't know if that's going to be, hey, I will always have these on because I don't know if honestly, I don't know if I really care. You know, we still always have the project browser default that says, you know, not on sheets, and this will show you all the views not on sheets, but don't know. There you go. That's a couple of the features. And again, I'm still waiting on questions. So that was it. The other thing that I did want to talk about too, and they added on the quick access toolbar, they added a new feature, and I don't know if there's going to be anything in here that has it. Just go to 3D real quick. I don't ever use this building, but I was trying to find something. I actually got to make sure it's turned off first. Like if you grab a curtain wall, you know how we get all the, hey, this is going to be configure the grid layout, or this is pinned, or I've got a padlock, or check out the work set or whatever. There is a new button on the modify tab. I honestly don't know why it's on the modify tab. It seems kind of weird to me to have it there. But it's kind of like a tool similar to thin lines where I can turn my thin lines on and off, but this will allow me to toggle on and off the the pins, etc. So now when I grab this, you're going to see, oh, the pin is there. Theoretically, I think it's when you grab a series of objects and grab all of this stuff. I can toggle on, there's all the pins, toggle off the pins, etc. So you got a multitude of things set, you can toggle that on and off to see or not see the pins.
That's going to be super helpful in big projects. When you select, you just see a sea of pins.
Sea of pins, or a sea of the work set icons, a sea of, hey, I need to check out this element on the work set. It's like, oh my God, really?
Yeah, that's all you can see is a bunch of little boxes.
Yeah, it's like, no. Probably the thing I was looking forward to the most, and I didn't even know this was actually on here until like right before this got released a week ago, and it was in one of the discussions I was having with somebody. I'll just come back here to my cheesy little file. Like Parallax, all of my doors are made up of custom families, right? It's a nested family and a nested family or whatever. And historically, none of my families, when you've selected them, did you ever get automatically the automatic dimensions or the not temporary dimensions? What are those called? Your activate dimensions, right? We didn't get this historically. I had to select it like if you select multiple things and to get the activate dimensions. Why am I not getting activate dimensions there now? Let's draw another wall in here. Create similar. Come on. Let's see, if I grab this, I should get a temporary dimension. If I grab both of those, why am I not getting activate dimension?
I don't know, you broke it already.
Very, very, very possible. Let's just go put a chair or something stupid in. Architectural component. Cool. What if I grab this and this?
Yes.
I am not getting the activate dimension now.
It's a feature then.
That's a new feature. Oh, is it not because, no, because this isn't on. Oh, yep, there you go. You have to, okay, that's hilarious. It's the little activate button up here. So the activate dimensions is now gone, and it's this little button up here that not only toggles on the push pins and stuff, also the temporary dimensions.
Right.
Very interesting. So, okay, so that, see, I just learned something new, that replaces the activate dimensions, and we've got the activate controls and dimensions button here. Yay!
Yep. Again, that could be nice if you're doing a walkthrough with a client or somebody, and you don't necessarily need to see all of those things popping up when you're selecting things.
Yeah.
To make it a little cleaner.
Yeah, there's always, I always laugh. I hear people say that often. I'm like, well, if you truly want to make it a little bit cleaner, then why aren't you going to do this when you're giving a presentation? It's like, no, can't stand that one. So the other thing that they did add, and again, this is me just kind of throwing this out there, but we've not been able to use the measure between two references point in 3D in the past. You've been able to dimension, but you've not been able to use what used to be called the tape measure command, or in this case, the measure between two references. But now you can, and you can see it doesn't matter which direction you're going. We're actually getting good snap points on this. Like, oh, I want to go from here to here, or again, it'll let you go from like that surface to this. Ooh, I thought that was picking up on surface. It is still very bizarre. And then, you know, come over here to this, although I don't really know how beneficial that one would be, but you do now have the tape measure, or yeah, the measure tool. It's like, oh my God, we finally have that going inside of there.
It allows a sniper to determine their range.
Oh, there you go. That's my sniper measurement.
There you go.
From through this wall to the corner of that wall. Is that an appropriate comment with what's going on in Ukraine right now, Brian? I'm just asking.
I don't know. Probably not.
Yes, and somebody pointed out, yeah, Brian, that's why there's in that new icon, there's got a dimension string to let you know it's activate dimensions. The other thing on that too, and it was actually funny, there was something that somebody at Autodesk said to me in passing. It was like an AU or something a couple of years ago, that they're trying to get rid of the options bar, which is why you're seeing more and more tools have stuff come up in the contextual ribbon or moving things up to the ribbon. So like, even if you use the align command historically, when you've used that, let me find my align commands right there. Right, we have the lock and the multiple button and the wall center lines down on the options bar. So when they toggled the align command in 2022, they moved all of that stuff up here. So I think as Autodesk keeps tweaking all these different tools, you're going to start to see a lot of the options get off the options bar and just start coming up in the contextual ribbon. And I personally hate that with the align command, but then the other thing that they did add.
Why do you hate it in the align command? Is it because you're not used to it, or is it because something else?
Partially why I hate it is if I end up into something like this, I'm in the edit profile, so I'm in a contextual ribbon. And then if I go into my align command, it now opens up an additional contextual ribbon. So now I can't be like before, I was like, oh, I'm done with this, let me just hit finish. I can't, because now I'm in the align command. I have to click over here to hit the finish icon. So it's adding additional clicks. So that's the reason why I don't like it up in the ribbon, because now we're getting additional contextual ribbons. And for someone like me who's in the family editor all of the time, I'm done aligning, I want to hit finish in my sketch mode. I'm like, crap, either cancel out of that stupid command, hit finish, or click on the other contextual ribbon.
But at least we got the lock checkbox.
No, have you been using that a lot, Melissa? So you guys know what we're talking about?
I would only use it in the family editor, so I don't know that I love seeing it in the project.
Bingo, that's my problem.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know what Melissa and I are talking about, in Revit 22, we've always had this lock checkbox. It never did anything. It was in the contextual ribbon, or excuse me, it was in the options bar, not the ribbon. And we always had this little align checkbox. And when you did it, nothing happened. Now, when that is checked, if I align something, it is automatically locked for us. This is amazing when you're in the family editor. But then you go into a project and forget the align is set to be locked. I was in one of my clients' projects and I aligned and locked a whole crap ton of stuff in their project. And I got to the end and I'm like, oh crap. I literally just locked this desk to the wall, or whatever I was doing. I was like, oh my God, because of this stupid checkbox up here. So yes, that was a 2022 feature. Also, I created my first family forgetting that I didn't knowing that was on. And I'm like, align, and I just hit padlock. Right? Muscle memory is, oh, I need to align this from here to here. I'm unlocking everything. Now let me align this to here. Cool. And then I was done and I flexed my family and it stayed. And I'm like, what the hell? And I go back and nothing was locked. I'm like, I thought I locked all these things. So yes, that I'm okay. I'm used to that now. I've been using it enough in 22. But the fact that the contextual ribbon comes up, I'm not a big fan of that feeling. But
yeah, it does seem like you should just add to the contextual ribbon that you're already in.
Yeah, I would prefer to see that personally. So the one thing I did post up there as well is I did in my, so if you guys haven't downloaded it yet, if you go to my Twitter, I actually did post just a thing to the help file. So this is obviously online, so anybody can get to it, even if you haven't downloaded it or your IT refuses to download it for 6 months. You can still go see the what's news in here. So I did post this to start talking about what's new and put some of the stuff in there. The data exchanges to me is going to be something that's going to be somewhat fun. If you're in BIM 360, you're going to actually start being able to do like data exchange information. And this technically isn't going to be out, I think, for another week or so. But there is some of the stuff in here that's going to be great when we get into there. So I'm kind of excited about some of that stuff to look out on. But I don't know, Melissa, do you know anything that came out and anything you had that was going to be a great thing? I know John's already got posts about the new Dynamo.
Of course he does.
John Pearson does. So John, you can throw that in the chat so people can go see your posts. Those are kind of the big ones for me, the performance issues and things like that. And then rollback for cloud models. I didn't get why this was new, because we can currently do that in 22. So I didn't know why this was.
Oh, is it a 22? Because that one's supposed to be, you could roll back and get things without like actually rolling back your whole project and losing all your other stuff.
Maybe that's what it is. So you can like, I don't know, you can like download it and open them. It rolls back syncs. Yeah, but that's in 22. You can still do that too. So I was kind of confused, but maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
It could be one of those, new features they sneak in for. What does it say? Rollback syncs. Oh.
Yeah, it does say rollback syncs, but you've been able. I don't know. Yeah, you could download syncs in 2022. because I did that for one of my clients who recently just upgraded 22. I'm like, good thing you're here. I can just go grab this sync and I can go say open from Revit any of the previous versions. So I thought it was kind of nice as well, but who knows?
That is nice. I'm excited about the filter to sheet for.
Leave it to Marta. I was in data exchange and she noticed a misspelling. The word work is misspelled and now I got to look.
Oh, there's an I. There's no I in work. Oh, wait.
Where are you?
The first actual paragraph. Yep, there we go. There is no I in work.
There is no I in work.
Wait.
That's funny. I still don't actually see it, so there you go. I'll just take your word for it. Oh, right there.
Yes.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, Tim's thing. So is publish and sync the same? Because that would be kind of handy since that was a campaign to try to explain to people.
I don't think so. Here's the weird part. They're doing something to fix that on the publish to sync are the same, but they're never the same because I can sync 15 times and then publish once. But I think they were trying to do something behind versioning. So in Revit, you would like get the same day. I don't remember. I have to look on that. I obviously literally been out for a few hours, so I haven't created a new BIM 360 or Construction Cloud option yet. So I haven't gotten there yet to create that project and start playing with this stuff. That was going to be on my list of stuff to do in the near future, but not sure what's going on there. I think the big one for me, and I know Jason is on the MEP side of things, is theoretically phasing is going to start working for all the MEP store, and I shouldn't say all the stuff, the duct work. So theoretically, you're going to be able to demolish and attach to previous phases, et cetera, and get the phasing to work with duct work. I do know when that came up, one of my clients was like, oh my God, I will be asking every single one of my architects to upgrade the day it comes out. Which is always nice to hear MEP guys say that, because usually they're the most hesitant to tell, I don't really know if that's what I'm looking for. And then they did add finally for view filters, base constraint, offset, top constraint, and offset for walls, which is going to be a good one for me. And then some subcategories for view filters too, for roof soffits and wall sweeps. So I know I've always been wanting to go like be able to turn just a wall sweep off or something like that, and you could never do that before. So hopefully that'll be a good thing that we'll be able to go through and start seeing those as well. All right, looks like we got a couple questions. Since I'm running out of what the heck to talk about in the 2023, let's jump into some questions.
Great. Well, Jason's over there doing a happy dance. So that's good. Let's see, do we want to go with Brian's first?
Sure.
Oh, good. So looking at tags and formulas. So is there a way to have tags switch visibility based on a formula? I'm able to do this in the family editor, but once it's loaded, the formula equals if egress formula test greater than 44. Anyway, well, we'll look through that. So there's his formula for the yes, no visibility parameter doesn't kick in once that value is greater than 44.
No, so when you start talking tags, Brian, there's no way to use the value of the tag, the value that's going input into the tag or the label in that case, to control something in the family. Paul Aubin did a great little workaround where you can't do it for visibility. What he basically did is said if this value is greater than this, put a space, and he can only do it with text values. So he was actually using, and I thought this was a brilliant idea from Paul Aubin. What am I looking for? I was looking for the, how do I get to the character map? Sorry. He was using wingdings. And what was funny about this, wingdings or webdings are one of them, that when it met criteria, he chose the webding character of a check mark or a big, you can't do this or something like that. So you can do it with a text value, but you can't do it with like something based off of a yes, no. So I tried doing it. I tried a whole bunch of different ways when I saw Paul doing something like this. But basically what he was doing is if it was a tag and you're looking at type mark, he can say, hey, does this meet constraints? If it does, give me a check mark. If it doesn't say constraints, then do this. And then he had a yes, no tag that was actually filling in a value for yes, it meets it, or no, it doesn't, or whatever. So rather than seeing the word yes, no, he was having a big green check mark versus a big red X or whatever value he was using. So that is kind of one of those things that no, you can't do it for visibility, but there are some other values you might be able to do with like text, etc., where you're literally turning the text value off. The problem with trying to do, and he literally just put a label on top of each other. One label was it using like wingdings, and the other label is doing something else. So he's got a LinkedIn. He's got a LinkedIn post on. Actually, he posted it on his website from like I think it was Midwest University a few years ago, where he had a whole handout and everything on it. So I wish I could have a better answer for you, Paul, but no, or excuse me, Brian, but no, there's no way to go through and have visibilities be controlled off of values in that scenario. I'll see if I can find a link to Paul's, it was a LinkedIn post, but I'll see if I can find a link for that. And if so, I will post it in the YouTube chat if I ever post this to YouTube.
Yes, he's now commenting that why do they let us get away with it in the family editor then? It's not going to actually do anything for us.
Yeah, it's like in balusters, it drives me crazy. In creating the baluster family, you can use the top angle and bottom angle to control visibility, links, a whole bunch of cool things. Second you load into a project, those values are only there for when you are in family editor. They're not related to what the actual slope of the stair or ramp is in the baluster. It doesn't use it. So you get it all set up and you're like, oh, this is so cool. Look, it's working beautifully. Load in project. Why isn't it working? Why is it stuck to one side?
Because your panel's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll get it by Revit 2043. Hey, all I can say is, you know, we always make those jokes, but I have been very, very happy with the way Autodesk has been giving us more user requested items rather than big feature shareholder items.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, I'm happy with 2022 and 2023 and getting a lot of things like, oh my God, we can finally do this in schedules. Oh, that was the other big one in 23. If you have a new schedule, if you have a schedule, one of the things now in schedules is in the filter tab, you can actually say filter by sheet, just like we had with the Keynote editor. So now we'll only say, oh yes, whatever I'm scheduling, these doors are only in this view, and cool, I'm gonna only show the doors in this view.
Yeah. It's going to be really awesome for finished things and furniture and equipment.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing for a lot of things. The one thing I haven't checked this on, because I know a lot of people use generic annotations similar to keynoting or the way Revit you think keynoting would work. So they use their note blocks. I haven't looked to see if there is actually, let's just go see. I click new note block. Sure, help button, okay. Is there going to be on the filter tab? Yeah, so even with those note blocks, those people who've been doing crazy workarounds for all of their keynoting, I call them key denotations because it's not actually Revit keynoting, you can now say filter by sheet. So that'll be a big one, I think, for a lot of my clients as well, and most of the things. I also have a feeling this is going to be a giant pain in the ass support question. I put the schedule of all the doors and I can see them all on the schedule. When I put it on the sheet, only some of the doors show up. What's going on? Or they're going to move a door schedule to a sheet that is only door schedules. That's going to be checked and it's going to be blank. Look, it's filled out here. I put it on this sheet and there's 0 things on it.
Yeah. Luckily, hopefully most people's first look would be the filter tab. But...
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was sitting there laughing at a client who's trying to filter it by phases. So they literally added phases. The fields for phase created and phase whatever, and then they were filtering it by that. I'm like, you guys do realize that schedules have a phase filter over here? Like, oh, no.
All right, I'll amend my statement. It would be nice if most people. Oh, I also just saw John a while ago posted some Dynamo updates. I'm just going to throw out, I'm not going to click on it because there's a really good chance that you're going to get rickrolled. But
yeah, no. So I told John to post it up there because there are some big Dynamo changes in there. So yeah, and I know he did a big blog post about it.
Yeah, sure. All right, John says not a rickroll, so go ahead and click on that link. Oh, that's right. He AutoCAD rolls people now.
All right. What's our next question?
All right. Our next one is multi-buildings in a project. That's everybody's favorite. Okay, so we have a project with 3 buildings in one model. Every building has a different ground floor level. Normally, I would put them all in their own model, but here the decision was made to put them all in the same model. 6 months in, the contractor changed his opinion on the levels and wants all the ground levels starting on 0. Sorry. Laughing and crying for you. I've added a survey point for every building and set the height per survey point, changed level and spot elevation types to survey point. So now we can plot the drawings with the correct elevations, but we have to set the correct survey point for every building when we plot. The other option was to cut the models up to 3 separate models. What would you advise in a case like this?
The first case I would advise is whoever decided to put them in one model, go slap them. If it was you, go slap yourself. But I know probably wasn't Jen. Yeah, everybody's like, yep. That's one thing that always cracks me up. I get clients who do this all the time, and then something like this happens, and they're like, what's the best way to do this? How can we fix this easily? And I'm like, my personal opinion, 3 separate models. And I know it sucks because you've got a lot of documentation here or there. You know, do a save as. If there's no documentation, that's not a big deal, really, really easy. Probably there's documentation. It's do a save as, it's go in, split it up, delete, do all of those fun things when you get in there. There's 2 tools that are out there that are great when you are trying to do something like this, because the problem you're going to run into is you're then going to go try deleting building A level 1, and it's going to delete half of the stuff from building 2, building B, right? So Revolution Design has a great tool for, hey, select everything that's associated to this level and let you change it to another level. Or Ideate has their query tool, not the query tool, I forget what it is. The Ideate Explorer tool that will let you sort things by how they are associated to levels. So you can quickly start grabbing all the doors and associate them to level, building B, level 1, whatever. That's the problem you start running into, is when you do the save as, that's easy. You start deleting things, that's cool. But it's when you delete the levels that you're like, crap, stuff in building B was associated to building A's levels. And that's where you're just going to start wanting to shoot yourself. But yeah, I always do them in separate buildings because this happens all the time. Or worse off, somebody's like, oh, now I want to take this building and rotate the building 1 degree on the site. Cool. There's no way to do that except for attempting to grab everything, and you can't rotate because things are associated to walls or not walls or whatever, and you end up just getting hosed. So yes, my theory on that is I would break it up into 3 separate models, because again, this is happening today. Who's to say it's not going to happen again tomorrow, and now you've got to do something else tomorrow, or the rotation is going to happen, or something else is going to happen.
Yeah, we had a client that had kind of that same thing, and they really wanted these 5 buildings all in one file, and oh no, the floor to floor heights, they're definitely going to be the same thing. Well, 2 weeks later, oh well, actually they want to add this space in buildings 2 and 4, so yeah, it's kind of a, whenever they tell you, oh no, we're never going to change this, don't believe them, because absolutely it's always going to change. And Jen, I'm sorry that you inherited one of those.
The AEC industry has given me trust issue. It's funny to me because there was a project I was working on. It was a giant project. It was a huge convention center. It was the St. Louis Convention Center, I think. It was a giant convention center, and they had to put a guard shack in, and somebody was just going to draw the guard shack in there. And I'm like, no, that's going to be a separate building. They're like, it's 8 feet by 12 feet. And they were like, why are you putting this in as a separate building? It's a tiny little building. I'm just going to model it in there. And they finally listened to me and did it as a separate building. And they were so happy because literally that guard shack changed, rotated, moved about 25 times in that project. And they're like, oh my God, had this been in there and I kept trying to rotate things and move everything up and down and do all of that, it would have been terrible. And I'm like, yeah, it's an 8 by 12 building. It's one of the tiniest things I've modeled in Revit next to a slot car for a Boy Scout. But building wise, that was one of the smallest actual buildings that got built. I modeled in there, and everybody thought it was crazy that it wasn't just part of the building. And they're like, oh, now we understand why. Because you're just never going to know. That is always going to happen. Things are always going to change. So that's what I always tell everybody. In my mind, when people ask me certain processes in Revit, like, why do you model it that way? Why do you do it that way? I was like, because when it changes, this will make life easier. Well, it's not going to change. It's not. No, I didn't say if. I said when, because it will change.
Yeah, there will be something. Or we've done a couple of those too, where it was, little guard shacks to big warehouse facilities. And it's literally like big enough for a dude to sit in and let people onto the property.
Exactly.
But you start getting all your civil stuff in, and suddenly they realize, oh, if we don't raise this up, he's not going to be able to see the guy in the truck, or he's going to get flooded out, or so you're moving it around, moving it up and down.
Yeah, I've even done buildings where it's one building, but there's like kind of like a wing coming off on angles. There's been times where I've done those because I'm like, man, I know when you actually get to site conditions, something's going to be screwed on one of these giant wings, and they're going to need to be elevated or done something different, and just do it in a separate building. And one of the projects we did it on, they came out there, oh yeah, there's some big buried thing we didn't know about, so we need to change the angle of that wing by like 2 degrees. So yes, we had to deal with the cleanups where we rotated the building 2 degrees, but that's all we had to deal with. It wasn't rotating 5 million objects 2 degrees. Like, we're so glad we did it that way. I'm like, you're welcome. That just paid for all my consulting fees right there. So yes, sorry about that. I was just gonna say, sorry about that, Jen, but you're definitely, my opinion is just break it apart. And yeah, it sucks depending on how much documentation you've got going on, but a lot of times you can even keep some of the sheets in different building files and print from the different building files for the different buildings, so you don't lose all your documentation stuff.
That's true. And I would add, make sure you use this story as the why people should listen to you on how to set things up.
So she can't even go slap the person because the person, this project was started before she went there. Or as Mallory would, as Aaron would say, throat punch them. What?
Yeah. Well, you get all those like stress squeezy balls from conferences and throw those at people. All right. Should we look at David's question? Is we always needed a way to separate floor plan versus ceiling plan views for families, especially for medical ceiling equipment. Never really found an easy way to do that.
David, are you talking within the family editor? I'm kind of confused on this question.
Yeah.
I also don't do a lot of medical building. Most of my clients do. I know Melissa does more than I do on that, but.
No, it's always Aaron playing with the medical stuff.
So while we're waiting for a response from David on the ceiling stuff, one of the things for me, and I think a lot of people don't understand, and Autodesk even pisses me off with the out-of-the-box templates, is that when you start coming in here and you're looking at your project browser organization and you look at that, I don't think a lot of people know that if you right-click on views, you go to browser organization, or on the view tab under user interface, you can go to browser organization. It doesn't matter which. You can change how your views, your sheets, and your schedules are going to be displayed. And the one that drives me crazy on views, just very simply, even if you like the way Autodesk has them all set up, because I will always edit it because it drives me crazy on the grouping and sorting tab that they're all sorted by view name. I always sort mine by level, right? So I come in here and say, hey, I want to sort these by the associated level. Now I don't have to call it level 01, level 02, level 03. It will sort the project browser by the appropriate level name. So even if it's saying main level versus basement, well, those are backwards, or mezzanine, whatever, they will all start coming into play, and it will display it in the correct order in the project browser. So there's a lot of ways if you're saying like, hey, I need to separate floor plan views on here versus that. There's a ton of different ways to do this. Personally, I do it based off of a view type, but there's tons of different ways in the browser organization that you can get this set up. And I laugh because I bring this up because I literally had a client saying, well, we don't like the way you've got the browser organization set up on our template. We liked it to be this way. I'm like, oh, sorry, I just forgot to do this. So like, oh, you can, wait, what? You can change. It was like, yeah, they all freaked out. And I showed them like 6 or 7 ways I have it in there. Like, this is amazing. Wait, what's going on? So just kind of one of those things that you can have multitudes of this. And almost if you guys run into this, I have some firms who literally say, no, we only have one in there, and that's how it's displayed. They will not let users change the browser organization.
Yeah, we've had a few people that are very, very particular about it, but they usually do have a couple.
Is that something that's saved in the model or saved for the users?
It's saved in the model, but if you're just opening up your recent file, then it will remember your last setting. However, if you're not opening up your recent file and you're creating a new local file, then it will update from the one that's up there.
Yeah,
And that's the problem. It's not as bad as BIM 360 because most people are opening up their recents now anyway. But yeah, and whoever saved it last in the day. So whoever saved that central file last in the day is the one that gets it. Because a lot of my clients laugh because they can tell when I've been in there because I collapse everything because their floor plans are all expanded, their families are all expanded, right? If I do, I'll just say, let's just do this. God forbid somebody actually said, "Ooh, expand all." You know, their project browser looks like this when I get into it. I'm like, oh my God. This client, I have several clients who are like this. I'm like, you guys spend more time scrolling than you do working in the freaking model.
John says
I always get in there and I collapse everything. And then I say,
tend to like collapsing things too, John, just for you.
yeah, I think, you know, John needs to write like a Revit. You know, you used to have the old AutoCAD doc LSP, which would do, hey, when you start AutoCAD or open a project, do this. I wish I could be like, oh, every time you hit save, add a little script when it's all collapsed. So every time somebody synchronized, it automatically collapsed it before they synchronized. I was like, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there you go, John. If you come up with that add-in, John, since I gave you the idea, you know, I'd like a discount.
He'll take 2 minutes and get that going.
Oh, so David is saying he needs to show dashed on the floor plan and solid on the ceiling. So that can be done a few different ways when you're looking at David. So if I'm just going to come down here and we're going to use this highly sophisticated floor plan I've got going on here, can change this back to all. So I'm going to go to level 1, and level 1, let's just say you wanted these walls to be dashed or whatever. In your visibility graphics, you can go change categories and subcategories independently. There's a lot of different things that, oh God, these categories lists are getting huge, that you can start changing. So like right now, I'm cutting through this wall. So if I really wanted to change the surface patterns, the line pattern to be something, I absolutely can change the line pattern to be something. And now when I look in the floor plan, that line pattern is going to be changed. But if I go back to the ceiling plan, I'm still cutting through that same wall. You'll notice I'm not actually seeing that. And no matter where I move the view, none of the 2 key shortcuts are working in my 23. Like the keyboard shortcut didn't load. Like out of the box, like view range isn't even working. I'll have to look into that. But if I came down here and moved this down lower so we can actually see that we're cutting through the door too, you know, not only can you change like line weights, etc. A lot of times for me in my visibility graphics for doors and reflected ceiling plans, I don't like to see the panels and I don't like to see the door swing. So I can come down here and say, I want to go change the plan swing and the panel, and now I can just see the door frame. Oh, Jason's saying he's downloaded it too and they're not short. Huh. So the shortcuts aren't set up. So it's not just me. So that way you can turn things on and off. You can use that to start changing the visibility graphic and start going into different things like that when you go through. So yeah, now with that said, if your ceiling equipment, you're not cutting through it on a floor plan and it's above you, you're probably not even seeing it, right? So a lot of times you'll have a ceiling mount equipment, you're like, man, I really need to see the ceiling equipment above, but I can't see it in my floor plan. Like, you know, like here, I can't see this desk. I'm gonna use this desk as a terrible example, but I can't see the desk, but I wanted to see the desk inside of here. So when you start looking at families, there's what we call the invisible line trick. The reason you can't see usually the majority of the families is you are not cutting through the family. You're up above the family, you're not cutting through. Oh, look at that. The icon has even changed in the family editor up here. Oh, so see now Mallory's got to figure out, John and Aaron got to figure out how to change that too. So when you need to go through and start setting things up like this and go in and do it, there's this tool called the invisible line trick. So I go into an elevation view. I can come in here and I usually, what the heck is that? It's a dimensions tile floating up here. That's a horizontal dimension. Okay, hold on. I've got to figure out if there's a glitch. Yeah.
You did break it.
It is broken. Well, that's going to get sent to Autodesk quickly. I'm now seeing the plan. I bet you there's some more down here too. Very bizarre. Okay, I gotta say, remind me not to close this so I can send it out. Okay, sorry, I digress. When I go back to the create tab in the family editor, I can go create a model line, and I'm going to go pick a plane for this model line. And I'm just going to say center or front. Sounds good. Oh, that was just front, whatever. Don't really care. And then I'm going to make this model line invisible. And I'm going to draw it from here. Normally I parameterize this, but I'm just going to make it really, really tall for now. The other thing I do to this invisible line, a lot of people miss, is I make it not a reference. I don't want this invisible line. So when somebody's doing a crossing window and elevation and select up here to grab the furniture. So I am going to give it is reference, not a reference. And then when I load this back into the project, and I say overwrite floor plan, nothing changes, you don't see it. But theoretically now, my reflected ceiling plan, oops, that's the floor plan of that. Sorry, I should have been over here. My reflected ceiling plan, now I can see that desk, right? So I didn't change the view range, but now Revit says, hey, you're cutting through a modeled component of that family. So now I can cut through it and see it. So that's kind of one of the tips. So you didn't bring that up, David, but just did want to point that out. If there's something like a ceiling mount fixture, you know, we can draw that invisible line to go down to the ground. Like I said, I usually keep mine parametric. So when I actually grab the family, there's usually a type parameter that calls it my plan line offset, or I don't remember what I call it, but I've got some sort of thing in there. So sometimes I might need to see it on some families, but not others. I can play with that value, or I might be in one room that's got a 16-foot tall ceiling. On the next floor, there are 8-foot tall ceilings. I can start playing with it on a floor by floor basis or whatever I need to do. So I do usually parameterize that. I actually have the same thing built in for my base cabinets. So my base cabinets have an invisible line in them because if you have a solid countertop, you can't see the base cabinet dash symbolic lines through it unless you're cutting through them. So all of my base cabinets actually have that invisible line going up as well for just the simple reason of seeing the dashed lines on plan through the solid countertop.
So as far as the visibility though, so he's wanting to show dashed in the floor plan and then solid on the ceiling.
Right.
So you do what, the symbolic lines or do?
No, I just changed the visibility graphics. So for that category. So let's say here we want to, let's go back over here into the reflected ceiling plan. And now we'll go, no, the 2 key shortcuts are working. It's so hilarious. And if I come down to, I'm assuming the desk is furniture. I never use the out of the box desk. We'll just say in this case, it's going to be a projection line, also wants to be gray and some sort of pattern. Okay. And there you go.
It was a horrible pattern to pick.
Of course it was. That's the whole point. You might ask this though, how do I get rid of the gray over this? Yeah, you're just hosed. I don't know if you've ever noticed, like if you half tone your own grid lines, then they'll be like over the top of the walls and you just can't see them. There is not a great setting in the view itself for gray lines overlapping those lines. It gets even worse, like in a scenario when I go back to fat lines, you're like, really, what's going on there? But when you print, there is a setting in print in your setup to replace, wait, where is it?
What are you thinking the region?
This, yeah.
Does that work in this case? I thought that was for field regions and things.
No. Oops.
Well, now you'll have to try printing it and see.
Yeah. Let's go to my D drive and just go to my temp folder.
While you're doing this, I'll add to David because you might not necessarily want to take your whole furniture thing and change it all to gray. You could also add a parameter. So we have a lot of parameters that are called includes in our template. So basically you can check the box for whatever you want to see that is, the equipment that needs to be shown in the ceiling plan. And then you can use a filter through your view template to say anything that has this box checked should be showing up as dashed on the ceiling plans.
Yeah, so that didn't actually work.
Okay, so it's just view.
Yeah, you just get hosed on this. It's technically a display order. If I deleted the wall and put the wall back in, I think it would be correct, but since the desk was put in after the wall, which we all know that nobody should be going in and deleting all of the stuff, especially walls, and putting them back in. But there's a weird, Revit has a display order on everything, but we don't actually have control for the display order. So it's kind of one of those very weird, odd things as you start going through. Now, I guess I should have exited my Teams before I started this meeting. So hopefully, David, that answers your question. Oh, there is one tool I'm going to point out to you guys that I found this tool recently. And I know you guys use Pig to create your images for all of your Revit content. But there was a Twitter feed. I know Aaron was part of this as well, that there is a free add-on utility on the Autodesk store that all you have to do is get it set up. Where did I want to go? I didn't do it to all my families yet. And notice how my families now have the version and my company logo. I think Tim was the one who said it. Yeah, so it was like, there's an add-in you can go download. You literally just go into the add-in, and I still have it in 20 here. You go into the add-in and you just give it a logo, and you can actually have it. Yeah, everybody's like, wait, what? Wait, what? You can just have the logo in there set up, and that's it. I'm like, okay, there's a setting, but how do I actually save it? How do I get this to work? And anytime you open and save, now if somebody opens and saves that family who doesn't have the add-in set up, or they overwrite the logo or whatever settings they want in there, it will just turn it off. But so like for me, I've been slowly going through. I also have not found a way to run it with a journal file yet. So this one's kind of a downside. I mean, Pig is a way better tool, but I think
batch.
Yeah, I think when this kind of came up, Harley's like, I need to start looking at how to doing this with ours. But if I go to my add-ins tab in 2020, where's this?
Guys, he's still talking because he doesn't know the name. You got to give him a second.
Yeah, I can find the add-ins tab. Add-ins, there it is. It is Express Family Stamp. So literally it's coming here, choose your image. What if you want a description, so I could actually put the company name on there, and then Revit version or document type or shared print. So if you're doing it on those types of things, I don't do mine on the central files because they're never mind, they're always my clients. I don't think they'd really appreciate my logo, but I do it for the families, and it's just you select an image and you then say give it the Revit version, and that's it. I did this and I'm like, cool. Nothing's happening. And it will do it on single user files too. So I just didn't check the other one, but if I come up here like my sample case work, it's got my logo now and this as well.
Okay. But it's basically doing it one at a time on your.
Yeah, so I
exists.
Yeah, the image, so just uses the image that's there. It's not like Pig where you can go and say choose this, do this, etc. They also actually have this other tool on here too that it will show you all the views you have open. So you can now see all of the different views with a little thumbnail preview. So you can easily switch to this one, or just be like, crap, I didn't need that one or that one. So another little free tool they had, and these all came from BIMsoft. So if you just search BIMsoft on the App Store, you should be able to find it. But yeah, I know, I thought it was pretty cool because I'm always getting clients going, oh, what version of family did you give me? What did you do, etc. I tried running with my journal file upgrade, which is actually going to lead into Jen's next question, but it just kept fatal erroring. So I'm gonna have to see if I can figure out what's going on with that.
Yeah. There you go. Yes, and the next question that he just alluded to is asking about using a tool to batch upgrade families, and if so, which one?
So if you've been using Revit for a very long time, like I have, Autodesk used to have a tool to do this, but it was an unsupported tool because it was using the Revit journal files. So what that means, and I don't know if anybody's ever went in there and started looking at this, is if you go into any version of Revit, it's under your app data, local version of Revit, there's a journal folder. And every time you open and close Revit, it sees everything you have installed. It goes through and does everything you're looking at. And it will even go in and tell you everything you've done. So if I go down here and search for like a few of the asterisks, it'll find it. It'll start telling me which, I went to the add-ins tab, right? We're right now in Revit. This is the current version of Revit I'm in. First thing I did was go in the add-ins tab, and I clicked on this, and I did this, and I did this, and it will show you every single thing you've done. You can technically tell Revit to do things in these journal files. I've taught a few classes of this. I've taught it at AU, a few other conferences as well. So what you can do is go into and create one that basically just opens, saves, and closes the files. So if I go into my Revit and I go into just kind of show you guys this, I will show you it. I have one that also does an audit. So it will open, audit, save, close. And then you can just generate a list. So what happens here is it looks for this list. So I tell it to look for this TXT file. And if you come down here and look, all it does is up here tells it to open it, audit it, say yes to the audit tool, and then it comes down here and closes, and then goes back to the top and opens the next file. So I use this. Everybody laughs going, oh my God, there's like some tools out there you can do. You have all this set up. And the only thing about this tool is this tool just needs to be in the same folder as the families, or actually the tool doesn't have to be in the same folder as the families. It's just easier to do it. So if I grab this BDM audit, and there's also a BAT file here, and I just copy these. Well, I'll just copy these. And then we go into one of the folders where you wanted to be opening and doing this stuff. I'll just go into 2020, sure. And then let's say I wanted to do it in the openings. No, there's too many cameras in there. We'll just do it under my site file, because there's 2 files. You paste these 2 files in here, and then all this BAT file is doing is it's basically saying, find all the files inside of here, write them to a TXT file called this, and also delete any journal files and delete any backup files. So literally all this BAT is doing, it's basically just creating a list of files. So if I double click this, it gives me that family list file you're looking at. And then if you literally want to do this and open and save them all I have to do is go grab this TXT file, drag it onto the Revit icon, and it will run. Because all that journal file is saying is open, audit, save, close. And then it looks for all the files in that TXT, that list. So this is what I use. I've posted this in the Autodesk forums a while ago. I think I even posted it in the Revit forums, the other one. Man, mind blank today. Revitforum.org. I placed it there too. And if not, just if you need it, you can email me and I will give you those 2 files. It's just you put them in the same folder, you run the BAT. Usually you have problems downloading the BAT, so I rename it .txt, just because if you don't, every virus software out there will say you can't download batch files. And then you can see it just runs it, it opens it, it saves it, it closes it. And then when it's all done with all the files in the list, it will just close Revit. And I'm done. So Jen, that's what I use. That's what I've been using for 14 plus years, using Revit. That's what I do. I go through and I do that. And that's the tool I use. It's been there forever. I've tweaked it a few times. The original one from Autodesk didn't do the audit. I'm like, I'll do the audit. And if I actually go back and look, you can see that all of these different TXT files are things I've done over the years to do different things. Like I go to clients' offices and it drives me crazy that their detail items, somebody didn't turn off all the annotative stuff. So I open up the detail items and all I see are reference planes. So I'm like trying to find a preview of what's going on. I'm in there and I just see reference planes and dimensions like, So I literally have one that just goes in and turns off reference planes. So I go to any client's office, they start telling me to do stuff. I literally go to the reference planes off. I put this in the folder with this list, the BAT file. To do a BAT file, I click that up onto their detail items folder. It opens every single one up, saves them all, turns off the reference planes, and I'm done.
And the pig he was talking about is preview image generator.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. I hate it when people use acronyms, they don't tell anybody. Yeah, and that's from Iconic. How do I not have them in there? They're Iconic, aren't they? Is that their name? Yeah, I'll just do it this way because I know he has the same thing on there. Iconic BIM.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, if you go to Iconic BIM, they have preview image generator. I will post this in the chat for people to grab.
Yes, and I have definitely been loving that lately because we will upgrade a full client's library and it lets you tell it how you want the preview image to look. So you get to go in and do things like turn off all the annotation and decide if it's shaded or not and all of that jazz. So this is what these little pictures on the right are what he was saying, hey, if I can figure out how to put the year on that too, which would be super awesome.
Yeah, as you can see, he's saying, hey, what detail level, what visual style, you can base it off of all of the categories because, you're going to want it different for some categories than other.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And you can also pick you know, like your 2019 folder, and then have it automatically copy all of it and upgrade it to 2020. Put it in a different folder using the same subfolder. So
Oh, I don't think I knew that one.
it's pretty nice. Yeah, I've been using it quite a bit lately.
Well, so there you go. Melissa said that's what she uses to upgrade families. So see, I didn't even know it actually.
Sometimes, because of course John made stuff too, so sometimes I use that. But if I'm doing it to do the pretty little thumbnails so that somebody can use it with their family browser, then I go with.
And then the other thing I also want to say that I don't think a lot of people even know, and this is not a Revit tip, that when I go into any of my Revit families up here, I always laugh that people are like, well, I don't use Windows Explorer because you can't see the preview of the Revit family. If I go look at anything, I can see previews of my families. I just don't think people realize that in Windows Explorer, previews pane is the default view, which works for Word, etc., everything else. But if you want to see Revit content, you just have to go to the View tab and change it to the Details pane. Because normally on the Preview pane, everyone's like, well, there's no preview. You can't see it. Wait, how did you get that? It's literally you put the Details pane on. Which I thought was bizarre, and I have no idea why it's like that way. But yeah, it's the little Details pane to see it just in Windows Explorer. And yes, this also does come through as well, or change the views to a large icon. Did you also know you can do that by control scrolling? Did you know you can go from your different, watch up here as I control scroll?
Is this one of those random things where you tried all the right clicking and hitting the buttons? And
I did something like that, yeah, and I was with the client.
Accidental, you were in the middle of something else. And
this was more of an accidental one, and it was like, yeah, and it's funny because like that's extra large icons, but then you can keep controls scrolling and you can like get in between the two. So you can go from extra large to large and you see the two different sizes, but you can get anywhere in between. So yeah, the control scroll will let you, so it's great on images like, oh, or like, no, I want to go back to details. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting. So yes, but that's how you get it up over there. And on that note, it's been an hour.
oh, it has indeed.
So I like to thank everybody for coming. Like I said, this is the second of the videos that I will be posting to my newly created YouTube channel. I'm hoping we'll get more than 2 views, Melissa and myself. As Brian said in civil chat, we were comparing our size. He meant to say our views, but he said size, which was totally inappropriate and perfect for something like Revit Radio and civil chat.
You mean font size?
Oh, I would, here, I'm going to, okay, on that note, I'm going to stop the recording then. No, I'm not going to. All right, thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate it. And like I said, please, as Brian Haley always says, let other people know, because the more questions that come up, the more we all learn from those people, you know, from the other questions that people are asking or answers people other than myself, Melissa or Brian or Desiree are giving. So kind of one of those things that, you know, let people know. We have like, you know, 100 people registered for this, but not everybody ever shows up. And it'd be great to see some more people come in. And hopefully with us recording these and putting them on YouTube, maybe more people will become aware of it. So thanks everyone. Have a good 2023 Revit experience. And hopefully everybody's downloading and getting into it today. All right, thanks.